The presidents of some of America's elite universities have some explaining to do after their dismal performance in front of Congress, refusing to call out anti-Semitism, even calls for the eradication of the Jewish people. They would refuse to admit that that was anti-Semitism. Well, now, President Liz Magill is apologizing for her performance, but many are calling for her resignation right now. Listen to this. This is her apology.
In that moment, I was focused on our university's longstanding policies aligned with the U.S. Constitution, which say that speech alone is not punishable. I was not focused on, but I should have been, the irrefutable fact that a call for genocide of Jewish people is a call for some of the most terrible violence human beings can perpetrate.
What she forgets is the comments that were made by a professor had nothing to do with the United States Constitution. He's an employee of the institution. The institution doesn't need to allow employees to say whatever they want to say. Okay? You have a right to fire people. That's not free speech. This was her performance, by the way, in front of Congress. This is what got her in the hot water. And she tried to pull out the Constitution in that apology. Give me a break. Watch this.
Specifically calling for the genocide of Jews, does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context.
If the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
Look, she needs to be fired. Here's the reason. There was a $100 million donor. $100 million you guys going to offer up. Says, we're pulling the donation. This is absolutely flabbergasting. Don't forget, Harvard basically had the same performance. This woman, Claudine Gay, listen to this.
Can you say yes to that question of does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules on bullying and harassment?
Calling for the genocide of Jews is anti-Semitic.
So yes.
And that is anti-Semitic speech. And as I have said,
and it's
when
a yes.
Speech crosses into conduct.
And it's a yes. I've asked the witnesses.
When speech crosses into conduct, we take action.
So is that a yes? Is that a yes? The witness hasn't answered. Madam Chair, is that a yes? You cannot answer the question.
When it transfers into conduct, again, it gets back from her original questioning of the president of the University of Pennsylvania. That means you actually have to commit murder. You actually have to commit the genocide in order to violate the policies. These people are so Looney Tune. Why would anybody send their kids to any of these institutions anymore? They're not doing you any well. Well, joining me now is the editor-in-chief of Campus Reform, Zachary Marschall, is with us. Zachary, when you were listening to this, were you thinking what I'm thinking? These are the presidents of these once great universities?
Yeah, what I was thinking was that all these presidents have failed miserably as human beings. They cannot recognize that a call for genocide against Jews is tantamount to a call for violence and incitement of violence. They all have advanced degrees. They know better. The problem is that they just don't like Jews, and they aren't strong enough to admit that. So what we see here is cowardice and moral failure culminating in 3 disasters of human beings.
Zachary, I would never, ever do this. But if I was a professor and called for the eradication of Black Lives Matter members, now, I would never do that because that's calling for violence, and it's not the American way. I would imagine if I did that on Harvard's campus, I would have been ousted before I could even get the words out of my mouth.
Well, at Campus Reform, we've reported on people at Harvard and at Penn and many other universities around the country that have been ousted or suspended or face other penalties more than anyone has for inciting violence against Jews, for using the wrong pronoun accidentally, for causing a microaggression, which probably doesn't even exist in the first place. So it's complete hypocrisy. Claudine Gay's been lying through her teeth since day one. She's been lying to the American people that Harvard doesn't punish students for using certain types of speech. I have a history of it. These are crooked liars.
All right, Zachary, so what you're saying is you can prove there are instances of Harvard, UPenn, the others, punishing people for not using the proper pronouns, but calling for the genocide of the Jewish people, that's okay.
Yeah, well, Campus Reform, go to campusreform.org. We've been reporting on it since 2009. We have FOIA requests. We've looked at bias reporting systems. We've looked at student testimony, and we reported on all of it. Students across the country have been suspended, have been faced different kinds of persecution from their administrations for not conforming to leftist speech code. And this is another example of the left saying Jews don't count.
It is absolutely, I mean, if it wasn't so serious, it's laughable. I hate to say it, but I'm literally thinking to myself, people are getting suspended. And I know these stories. I've read them on your website. Getting suspended for not using they, them, or zir, or whatever these nonsensical terms are they have for men and women. And literally these professors get away with calling for this violence against Jewish people. I want to play a soundbite from Kristen Gillibrand, the senator from Arizona. She's actually calling for the president of Harvard to resign. I'm happy to see at least a Democrat actually step up and do the right thing here. Listen to her.
Do you agree they should resign?
I do. I think their statements were abhorrent. And, you know, trying to contextualize what constitutes harassment, Jewish students are terrified on these campuses. You have examples of them being barricaded into rooms. Students have been told, we cannot guarantee your safety, so stay in your dorm room. That is the definition of harassment. You cannot call for the genocide of the Jews, the genocide of any group of people, and not say that as harassment and creating an unsafe environment for the kids and the students that live there.
You know what, Zachary, before I get your response, I'm going to, just to back her up, play this soundbite from a Jewish student at University of Pennsylvania, talk about what it's like on campus. Cut 4.
I'm here because the Penn I attend today is unrecognizable from the Penn I once used to know. Our university, revered for its pursuit of knowledge, has devolved into an arena where Jewish students tiptoe through their days, uncertain and unsafe. The situation at Penn has escalated into a full-blown crisis, with students openly asserting their intentions to proceed with plans with or without university permission.
It's amazing how far we've fallen, Zachary. I'll give you the last word here to sum it all up.
You know, I am Jewish, and my grandfather survived the Holocaust. In the 6 years between Hitler coming to power and World War II starting, Jews in Germany were stripped of their rights and of the right to go certain places and the right to do certain things. And that was done incrementally, slower than anyone could recognize. And it started with rationalizing and justifying that incitement of violence against Jews was okay. Now, we saw that happen on Tuesday in Congress. This is not a Republican or Democratic issue. I can't think of one thing I would agree with Gillibrand on, but she's absolutely right. This is about being human and being not human, and the 3 presidents we saw in front of Congress were absolutely not human.
You know, I don't want to diminish the aspect of being Jewish in all of this, because obviously that's the one that's getting hammered right now. But I believe this is a continuation of the Black Lives Matter movement. This is an anti-white, straight people, the Zionists, as they call us. And this is a war on white men in America, and they're using this now as just another example. And I think even when you look at the Middle East, the Jews are looked at as white, and it's got, you know, more than just their religion. They're white and oppressors, and this whole oppressor narrative. And it's gotten crazy because now the so-called oppressors are the ones that are being oppressed. Zachary Marschall, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight.
Thank you.